Ryan Murphy has built a career turning real lives into prestige television. From Versace to Monica Lewinsky, he has taken some of the most iconic and tragic figures in American history and reshaped their stories for the streaming age. His latest project, a limited series called American Love Story, promises to revisit one of the most talked-about couples of the 1990s, John F. Kennedy Jr. and his wife, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. The show is set to debut on FX and Hulu next month. But before a single episode has aired, the series has ignited a very public and deeply personal dispute. And now, with a new death in the Kennedy family, the question is whether Murphy has pushed this project forward at the worst possible moment. Tatiana Schlossberg, the 35-year-old daughter of Caroline Kennedy and the niece of JFK Jr., passed away on December 30th from leukemia. She left behind a husband, Dr. George Moran, and 2 young children. Her death was sudden enough to shock even those who knew she had been ill, and the grief inside the Kennedy family is, by all accounts, profound. Caroline Kennedy, now 68 years old and the last surviving child of President John F. Kennedy, buried her daughter just weeks before a television drama about her late brother is scheduled to begin broadcasting to millions of American households. For people close to the family, that timing has become impossible to ignore. A source who knows the Kennedy family told the outlet Page 6 that the prospect of the show airing while Caroline is still in the earliest stages of mourning is, in their words, insensitive. This is described as a very sorrowful time for Caroline and for everyone in the family. Some members of the family had quietly assumed that Murphy and the production would recognize the situation and voluntarily delay the premiere. That assumption, the source says, has not been met with any response. There has been no public mention of a postponement, and FX representatives did not respond to requests for comment. So what exactly has the Kennedy family said about this show, and how long has this conflict actually been building? The opposition from within the Kennedy family is not new, and it did not begin with Tatiana's death. Jack Schlossberg, Tatiana's brother and Caroline Kennedy's son, has been one of the most vocal critics of the project since it was announced. In June, Schlossberg took to Instagram to state plainly that JFK Jr.'s family was never consulted and has nothing to do with the production. He wrote that admiration for his uncle is something he welcomes, but what he described as profiting off that admiration in a grotesque way is something else entirely. He also raised a specific financial objection, arguing that Murphy should be directing a portion of the show's profits toward the Kennedy Library and the causes that JFK Jr. championed during his life. Murphy has not done so. For Schlossberg and his family, this is not simply a creative disagreement. It is a matter of respect, legacy, and money. Ryan Murphy eventually responded to Schlossberg's public criticism, and his comments did not smooth things over. Appearing on a podcast hosted by California Governor Gavin Newsom, Murphy suggested that Schlossberg's anger was odd, noting that Schlossberg was only 6 years old when JFK died, and implying that the grief and the personal connection might not be as deep as Schlossberg claimed. That comment landed badly. Schlossberg responded directly, recounting specific childhood memories of his uncle. He remembered JFK Jr. calling him by childhood nicknames, picking him up from school in a Pontiac convertible. He remembered being the ring bearer at his uncle's wedding. He remembered the day Kennedy died and the singer Wyclef Jean performing at the funeral. These are not the vague memories of a stranger. They are the memories of a child who lost someone. Murphy's dismissal of those memories as a basis for legitimate grievance has only deepened the rift between the producer and the Kennedy family. At the center of the show itself are 2 actors who are largely unknown to most television audiences. Paul Anthony Kelly, whose sole previous credit is a 2010 television series, plays JFK Jr. Sarah Pidgeon portrays Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. The production does bring in more recognizable names further up the cast, with Naomi Watts playing Jackie Kennedy and Grace Gummer taking the role of Caroline Kennedy. Murphy acquired the rights to a book titled Once Upon a Time, The Captivating Life of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, written by Elizabeth Beller, and the publisher confirmed that the book is serving as source material for the series. The real story of JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette Kennedy ended in July of 1999 when the small plane Kennedy was piloting went down in the waters off Martha's Vineyard. Both Kennedy and his wife were killed, along with Carolyn's sister, Lauren Bessette, who was also on board. They had been married for 3 years. But does Murphy have the legal and ethical standing to tell this story without the family's blessing? That question sits at the heart of the broader debate this project has reopened. From a legal standpoint, public figures, especially those who have died, generally do not retain rights over how their stories are told through fictional or docudrama formats. Murphy's purchase of Beller's book gives him published source material to work from, which adds another layer of legal insulation. None of that changes how the family feels, and it does not resolve the ethical argument that Schlossberg has made publicly, which is that turning a real person's life, death, and marriage into entertainment for profit without contributing anything back to that person's legacy is a different kind of wrong than a legal one. These are not identical concerns, but they are not entirely separate either, and they speak to a tension that has existed in Hollywood storytelling for as long as Hollywood has been telling real people's stories. What the death of Tatiana Schlossberg has added to all of this is something that no business calculation or legal analysis can account for. Caroline Kennedy is grieving. She has lost her daughter. She is 68 years old, and she is the last of her immediate family. Her father was assassinated, her mother died in 1994, her brother died in a plane crash in 1999, and now her daughter is gone at 35. Within weeks of that funeral, a television series dramatizing her late brother's marriage and death will begin streaming into American households. For people close to the family, that timing has become impossible to ignore. A source close to the family noted that Caroline Kennedy is too dignified to approach the producers herself. That may be true, but dignity and pain are not the same thing, and the people around her are clearly watching the calendar. Ryan Murphy has not commented publicly on the timing since Tatiana Schlossberg's death. Whether FX and Hulu will reconsider the premiere date remains unknown. The show, as it stands, is scheduled. The grief, as it stands, is real. And the argument being made by those close to the Kennedy family is not that the show should never exist. It is that right now, in these specific weeks, airing it anyway sends a message. Whether that message is one of creative independence or simple indifference is something audiences and history will have to judge for themselves. American Love Story may tell the story of a family defined by loss. The family it is based on is living inside another chapter of that same story right now, and no one in Hollywood appears to be waiting for that chapter to close.